Hare Krishna. Visible, audible. Can I have a response?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. How's everybody today?
All good, Prabhu. Krishna's mercy.
Thanks for that response, Jan. Hey, uh, 16 devotees here. Question before we start. How many vaccinated? Rather, how many not vaccinated? Anybody not vaccinated? Let me know. I'll keep a distance from you. Okay, looks like I asked the wrong question to kick off. Oh, time to meet face to face. You tell me then whether you're vaccinated or not, then is it? Okay, let's kick off with today. Let me see. Oh, vaccinated, vaccinated. Good to see. Prabha Mataji. Yeah,
Hey,
what's.
I'm not vaccinated. Will you not talk to me?
Oh no. We are in the same boat, Amma. Both of us first vaccination only done. I just got my vaccination today and that's keeping me a little battery down. Yeah, nothing. Just a couple of hours ago. Very nice. Good to hear. Hare Krishna. So I'll start off with the Dhyana Shlokas and then we will move on to what looks like a PhD in management sciences out of one chapter, and we're not moving anywhere from this chapter 100 today, because there's so much to contribute, so much to discuss in that. So please get ready with your notes. Let's have a quick response from whatever we learned the previous week so that we can move on. Yeah, please be ready. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Pujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam Valmiki Munisimhasya Kavita Vanacharina Shunman Rama Katha Nadam Konayati Param Gatim Yafpiban Ramacharitamrita Sagaram Atruptasya Munim Vande Pracheta Samakalmasham Goshpadi Kritavarashim Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamala Ratnam Vande Nilapmajam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Katamastakhanjalim Bashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Navata Rakshatantakam Manchaneya Patalalanam Kanchanadris Kamaniya Vigraham Parijata Tarumulavasinam Bhavayami Bhavamanam Manojavam Marutotulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayutamukyam Sri Ramadutam Sirasanamami Buddhirpalam Yashodaityam Nirbhayatvam Arogatam Ajatyam Vakpatutvam Cha Hanumat Smaranatma Vedam Jananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Ullamya Sindho Salilam Salilam Cha Shokavanim Jarakatmajaya आदाय तेनैव ददाह लङ्कां नमामि तं प्राञ्जलिराञ्जनेयम् वेदवेद्ये परे पुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजे वेदप्राचेदसादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना वैदेही सहितं सुरद्रुमतले हैमे महामण्डपे मध्ये पुष्पकमासने मणिमये वीरासने सुस्थितम् अग्रे वाचयति प्रभाञ्जनसुते तत्त्वं मुनिभ्यः परम् व्याख्यान्तं भरतादिभिः परिवृतं रामं भजे श्यामलम् नमोऽस्तु रामाय सलक्ष्मणाय देव्यै च तस्यै नमः जनकात्मजाय नमोऽस्तु रुद्रेन्द्रयमानिलेभ्यो नमोऽस्तु चन्द्रार्कमरुद्गणेभ्यः श्रीरामचंद्र भगवान की जय हरे कृष्णा So can we quickly catch up with what we discussed the previous weeks? What were our take homes that we had discussed?
Prabhuji Kumar here, and the 80-20 principle, where it is Pareto analysis is one point which we discussed the last time.
And how did Rama apply that, the Pareto?
I'm not sure, Prabhuji, 100%. The statement Rama made. I don't remember the exact statement Rama made. Sorry. Somebody else can help me.
Yeah, can somebody else give me how the Pareto was applied?
Prabhu, he said that you start with small activities and it leads to big effects.
Nice point. Yes, and you had questioned something in that connection. Can you add that flavor, Sharda?
Prabhu, the question was about procrastinate. I spoke about how you were telling about how we should do an activity as soon as possible, right? We shouldn't delay an activity. And my question was, shouldn't we take the time? But it was more on the lines of we shouldn't procrastinate when the work is already finalized and it's easy to begin and it is going to have a great beneficial effect. And by starting it, it's going to be very auspicious. We discussed that point as well.
Believe me, it is only this single point that most of the success gurus today that you see are all talking about, and they're beating around the same, and it's a fact. It's one of the most important things. Once a decision is made, there is something called a 5-second principle. Anybody ever heard? I'm doing a lot of work on various success books at this point in time. There is something called a 5-second principle, and the 5-second principle says, in your mind when something pops up and you've already decided, just like we discussed in Ramayana, that this is the way to go, you want to do this particular activity. When it pops up in your head, immediately get up, get going. Mamta Mati, you want to say something about it? How do you apply?
Yes, Prabhuji, the same thing. As soon as you get a thought of something, immediately run and get it done. Execute it the moment you think of it. Yeah.
Thank you. And that matters a lot. Just try it and you will see that when a thought comes in that first 5 odd seconds, if you allow yourself to procrastinate or give yourself some other reason why you should not be doing it, then you've lost that window. And it's best not to lose that window. And if you don't lose that window, keep it for yourself. Act immediately. In that 5 seconds, you get a lot done. That's literally another aspect that Rama is making a mention of. Okay, what else apart from Pareto? Thank you for that, Prabhu. Anybody else? What else did we learn from Rama's management lessons the previous week?
Prabhu, we also learned how there's an adjective medhavi that Rama uses that Bharata has to be someone who can grasp and implement immediately in relation to the Pareto principle as well. And also Rama asks Bharata that how are you allocating the work and how are you engaging everyone? In what way is the manpower allocation kind of happening?
Very nice. That's a very valuable point. How do tasks get allocated? Yes, and that's an important one. Very nice. Because we allocate the right people, so he classifies us three ways: Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishta, literally. And he says these people should be given this. This Govindaraja gives an elaborate commentary there. Very nice. What else?
He initially also starts with have you taken care of the priest of Vishwaku Vansha? Are you taking care of the Brahmanas? So that's first thing. And also are you taking respect of the arrows? Have you appointed ministers who are equal to you? That's the main point of management. It's not be like we have somebody who is not good as it, but then they are not good, but then we have to have somebody which is equal to or trusted. So trusted, and they should be hero, knowledgeable, etc. Yeah, somebody can express.
That's a very important point. Otherwise, an organization tends to go from mediocrity to abysmal lows. So that's important to avoid. Very nice. What else?
Don't appoint so many mudas. Instead, you rely on one pandita.
Very nice. Thank you, Ma.
And whatever you decide, it should not be let out immediately to the people.
Very nice. So there is no point in having a big crowd which is saying Amasami. That's the equivalent of Hanji in Tamil. So who's constantly saying that, but instead it's good to have one who in difficult times will be able to give you support, because difficult times is the litmus test for the actual intelligence. Just like there are many, I don't know whether I gave this here, many stock market advisors. It's very easy to make money when the market is going up, but when the market hits you, to be able to manage that needs a very experienced person. And Rama is saying that specifically, that he will be a truly intelligent person, will be able to help you in difficult times. And he also says financially, that's also being mentioned there. What else?
There was one more point which I also felt was right. He said, don't let your plans know more than 4 pair of ears.
True. Because if you give it to more than 4 pair of ears, then it's, I don't know, it's from nazar lag jayega to kaam kabhi hoga hi nahi, or there's so many things. Or possibly you also give an opportunity for other people who are competitors. Now there are a few things we need to understand. Is the one aspect here is the fact that Rama is a Kshatriya king, and therefore some of the points, like there is one particular point, he says if somebody does something like this, kill him. Please don't tell me that I read it from Ramayana and you're following whatever I said. We'll be in trouble. We are not Kshatriyas. We are not the king either. So some of these are directly applicable to a Kshatriya. So this point has some of those bearings from that aspect. What else?
Prabhuji, and he also said that that you should not take arbitrary decisions. You should consult with people, and it should not be like too many
one
people.
particular point that you liked very much. Which one was that, Mataji? Putting the wrong people in the right okay, I remember that. I remember that. Yes, and arbitrarily not taking decisions without consultation is a major problem, which Rama also addresses there. Very nice. Any others?
Also, one thing that Rama asked Bharata that what are the major kind of to-dos you do when you wake up, and that waking up is before dawn. It's not like how these days we think like a king can wake up at whatever time he wants, but a king actually has to wake up before dawn and list down what kind of agenda that he has to do throughout the day, and
so
that
is very nice point. I'm missing your name, Bahirwani, Simran. So very nice point that you're planning the day in the last hour of the night, which means just pre-dawn. You think about what, and that too, the word that is being used is Artha Chintayan. Yes, so that's also another thing. Consultative decision making, how to use consultation also. Yes, was there. We talked about procrastination and prioritization. Avoidance of mediocrity, respect for the advisory. Yeah, these are the core points. I've I'm planning my thesis on management from Ramayana. It sounds very interesting. I spent my entire day today went studying the rest of the pieces here. Okay. Effects of a repressive rule. I think I touched upon that previously, where he also mentioned that kinchinna ugrena dandam vrisham. Yes, you're giving danda, you're giving punishment, but heavy punishment, brisham, udvejita prajam, that makes the praja angry. This king should be very, very careful about. Did I give the example of Jallianwala there?
Yes, you did, Prabhu.
Okay, so I already touched on that. So the next point is saying that you should not go and charge penalties and taxes so much that people will be completely exasperated by that, and they will come to the point of revolt. Yes, and he compares that to two examples that he is giving. He says one is just like a purohit becomes very angry or exasperated with somebody who's a yajaman, who's a big guy, because he's got money or something like that. But the purohit is asking him to do the rites and he's not doing anything. So how angry a purohit, first the purohit is thinking that this is the man who is going to give me money, so let me lid my anger. But then after some time he thinks this guy is, incorrigible. So then he says, "Bhaiya, aa jao, mere ko kis liye bulaya idhar? Come, sit down, do swaha karo, jo karna hai karo, finish. After that you can meet your friends." Like in many marriages, as soon as the Mangalya Dharana is happening, immediately half his office will come and there will be a big shake hands party for half an hour, and then everything goes on hold. It's like, yes, the auspicious time came, we got them married, now it's all done. So that's an example that's given. A sacrificial priest criticizing a cruel, aggressive and fallen man who performs sacrifice. Or the other example is given, which is also a heavy one, like a man who is completely in lust. He goes out to grab a woman, possibly even in a public place. He's gone so nuts. What is the reprimand that a woman would do? Sometimes try to hit him back, or swear, scream for help. That's not the kind of situation you should put your praja in, that they feel, oh, what am I stuck in? What kind of yajaman? A brahmana is thinking, what kind of yajaman I got myself into? Yes, unfortunate. I should not speak against him, but he's making me speak against him. Or this woman thinking, what is this man? In public, I'm having to reprimand him, or, if somebody is lost his. So out of lust, just as a man goes to grab a woman like that, out of lust for money, if you tax them too much, it is going to be a problem. So that point is being made. Like a fallen man who aggressively wants to perform a sacrifice, or a lusty man wanting to grab a woman. Bharata, I hope you did not unjustly and cruelly exact taxes. Yeah, that's the... Now, the next management principle is, whom should you fire from your organization? Can somebody take a pot shot at it? Who should be fired?
Person who gives away secrets of the organization.
Oh, yeah, that's an important one, no doubt. Not being loyal to the organization from that perspective. Data confidentiality is in trouble. This is a bit of an out-of-the-way question, but I just wanted to get some participation. Another me, nice point, Simran. Thank you for that. Here, Rama's stating this, that who you should fire? One who is very learned. One who is very courageous. One who is very expert in managing people. Now, these three look like very positive points. Then you think, what am I saying? Why would I fire somebody like that? I should hire somebody like this, not fire somebody. But then the other two qualities. One, he's busy destroying the confidential servants of a king or the confidants of a particular person. Yes, that is, he wants to malign others. So he's playing politics within the team. And why is that happening? Because he's ambitious for royal opulence, or and so much so that he may even be, he may want to even kill the king, go to that extent. So just like that, he wants to become the CEO of an organization. He may actually try to disparage others and somehow make it to the top. This is a problem. So Rama says, when you notice somebody like that, do you fire him or do you kill him? In this case, actually, yes, because being inside, he's working for an enemy, practically speaking. The next point is in the same area. Rama is giving us what is the recruitment criteria for a CEO or an army commander. What are the qualities and traits? Let's listen to that. Kaschit Krishtacha Shurascha Kaschit Krishtascha. Have you? Krishta means Harshayati, happy. The same root. Shurascha is a great Veera. Matiman, Dhritiman, Suchi. He should be Matiman, who's clever, and Dhritiman, who has poise, who has courage, who has, I would say, the ability to stay through difficult things, and Suchi, who's clean in mind and body. So, those are the qualities that he first speaks about. Kachit, Krishta, generally a person with cheerful nature. This Prabhu, when will he stop this class? I'm always crying, or somebody, who doesn't have any aggression, yes, in him. Here, the Shurascha, see the Viryavan, Vikrama, all of these are traits. These can be negatively used because the word Virya also means sperm. The ability to perform, the ability to achieve things. If it is ill-used, it will go out as sperm. It is properly used, it will go out for a man. If it's properly used, it will go out as achievements. So we need, like if you see in many places where you have to physically perform, you have to fight, you have to, a man who's not potent, an impotent person would not fit those roles. It's not easy to fit those roles. So Shurascha is somebody who has potency, ability to do something. There is some aggression in the person. He wants to achieve something. That's a very, very this thing. But not simply foolish aggression. Oh, he did something, okay, I'll go beat him up. No, that's not the goal. Matiman, who's very, very intelligent person. Dhritiman, who's courageous, who's clean, who has a nice combination of these factors. Because if you're going to start an organization, for instance, to start anything, you need to have Brahma's quality. To destroy anything, you have Shiva's quality. And to maintain something, you need Vishnu's quality. So to start something, you need to be in Rajoguna, because it needs heavy work at that point in time to put that in place. And to destroy something is a little easier. Yeah, it's very easy to destroy companies. It's very easy to destroy friendships. It's very easy to destroy a beautiful piece of art somebody took so long to actually create. Destruction is a little easier work in one sense. Creation is a lot of trouble. But maintaining, they say, is even more difficult. It's many times very easy to kick off a project, but to actually keep it running and keep it going needs a different mindset. So here he seems to be addressing the different aspects that a person should have. And then the next part he says, Kulinascha. He says he should also be from a good family background. Because the family background also speaks for itself. Mind you, the Ikshvaku Kulis are coming for so many generations, and many of their mantris have also been with them for many generations. That is, the father of the father of the father of this person was a minister before, taking a major position. So these are not new people. They've been around for a long time. Anuraktascha, and Anurakta means the person should have an affection for the main person in the organization. Say the CEO is recruiting his right hand, or the chairman is recruiting a CEO. The two should gel. It's not that whenever they meet, they're like cat and dog, screaming at each other. It's not going to work. There should be a natural affection that should be there. So, Kulinascha, Anuraktascha, Dakshaha, he should be an expert. Senapati Kritaha. Have you recruited a Senapati? Like that. Have you recruited somebody who has all of these qualities? This is a question that he is asking. Then, in that, it is said, a cheerful person he's not envious of the king. He's cheerful in the presence of the king. He's happy to deal with him, and he's able to put his head down and accept his superiority. This is in the case of a king. And then Kachit Drishta also means the person, the commander-in-chief has to be bold, clever. All of these qualities are very, very important. So Rama is hoping that he didn't replace the commander. Govindaraja is giving this in the commentary. He says, he's saying, I hope you have not replaced the commander-in-chief, because the one that we had possesses great qualities. And I think the Gita Press, Ramayana also says that, have you tested your commander? When you say Shurashcha, have you tested his ability? If you have appointed somebody, have you tested his ability? Now the next segment we are going into is all HR zone, including the previous one. Maybe I could have included that in the HR zone. But the rest of it, Rama is talking to Bharata about, how you recognize people, how you work with people. There are a few points that we are going to look at. I'm not making anything up here. I'm just giving it a current day parlance, old wine, new bottle. So in HR, you will see the first is recognition. Second, the very, very important point. Managers and businessmen should understand this point. Very important point for them. To pay people in a timely manner. Then there's a discussion about employee dissatisfaction. And then talking about how you will have leaders owning up to you or relating to you, gelling with you. What should a messenger or a representative of an organization be? An organization or a king, what should he be? And what is the entire arrangement for administration? And then some aspects about spy technology. Oh, we watch a lot of action movies, thrillers, and we hear, I think today we know more about spies than we have ever known, because the movies give you everything, how the spies from 007 and his special car to, I don't know what, and his multiple girlfriends. So, HR and recognition. First thing he's asking him, do you honor and respect those famous army chiefs? Because he just spoke about the army chiefs before. He's saying, are you honoring them? Do you respect them? Those who are extremely strong, courageous, and expert in war, and those noble acts of bravery are visibly, you are able to see that. Yes? Do you recognize them in a timely manner? That's one. The second question that he is asking him is about Kachit Balasya. Balasya is people in the army. Kachit Balasya Bhaktam Cha. This Bhaktam word here refers to rations that go for the army. Yes, I mentioned to you earlier, even now if you know, the Indian army has so many different rations that they are entitled to. Those things for people in the army have to go in a timely manner. So first is rations and then Vetanam. Vetana means salary. Ta cha yatochitam. Whenever it is appropriate, is it going to them in a timely manner? Is it, are they able to see that they are having it in a timely manner? That's a very, very important point for us to understand. Then Kachit Balasya Bhaktam Cha Vetam Cha yatochitam. Are they getting these in a timely manner? The Quran says this. The Quran says you should pay a man before his sweat dries. It's very important. Somebody has put a lot of effort. We saw this earlier in Ramayana also. We saw in one other section. Can somebody remind me? Where did we see this earlier? That people should be
The
paid.
various sins that Bharata mentions, Prabhu, to
Wow. You. Go ahead. Give it to us.
Mother Kaushalya, and he's saying that let all these sins come to me if if I was personally responsible for banishing Rama. So in that he actually mentions this as one of the sins.
Very nice. You get so much work done out of somebody and then you delay him. There are a lot of fellows who are running companies where they pay people 3 months later. This is not acceptable. Ye jee raha hai, aish ka zindagi. But then people are getting, this is not correct at all. Samprapta kalam datavyam. Samprapta kalam datavyam. When it's the right time, give it to them what's due. Dadasi na vilambase. Don't delay. Give it to them. This is a beautiful principle. Am I right? Is this a valuable learning for businessmen? Can I have comments from people who know what happens in the market?
Prabhuji, they should also pay the vendors on time.
I agree. When you're, but it's also common parlance in this market. This happens a lot. Many people don't get paid in a timely manner. Yes. Now, the next point Rama is talking about is about employee dissatisfaction. Then he says, what happens if you don't pay them at the right time? Then he says, Bartuhu Kupyanti. What happens? Whoever is their boss, they become angry with the guy. What do? You don't even pay me my salary. You're making me sit till 9 o'clock in the night. So you'll have to face all of this antagonism. Dushyanti, Dushtabhav, being angry, antagonistic. You will make people antagonistic to you if you don't pay them at the right time. A person who's managing an organization becomes his duty. Beg, borrow, steal. You do what you have to do at your end. But if you are engaging them and employing them, you need to pay them in a timely manner. So, anarthaha, sumahan, smritaha. The Smriti says, Smriti Shastra says this will lead to great anartha. What will happen? The army will turn around you. The army will become mercenaries. They will go get sold out to somebody else. These stories have been heard many times. So this is another important point that is being given. First, that you should pay on time, and then the resultant problem that you will face if you don't pay on time. Is the eldest leader attached and gelled with you? Is a question that Rama is asking to him. So he said, Kachit sarve anuraktas twam. Anuraktas twam means, are they attached to you? Are they having affection for you? Yes. So the employees that we have, for instance, people who work under us, they should have affection for us. It is very important. Or people who are doing seva even in Krishna consciousness, when we are working together, we should have attachment for each other. It's very important. Then he is saying, Kulaputra Pradanataha. And that too, he says, mainly the first son, the elder of the family, is that elder of a family. Because if the elder of the family is attached, generally the others don't have much opportunity. So far as the king is nurturing him, having the elder in his good books, and he's taking care of him, that's the Vedic system, how this worked. And then he says, see, many of these Kshatriyas, they have to give their life to you. Pranan tavarteshu santyajanti. Tyajanti, santyajanti, pranan tavarteshu santyajanti. They have to be ready to give up their life. This in the Bhagavad Gita also we see this verse coming, where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, we are ready to give our lives up for you. Duryodhana and Parthi, they make this statement that we are ready to give the life up for you. So when that statement is being made, he says, yeah, they are stating the truth. They are going to give up their lives. So they should be ready to give up their lives for somebody like that. So, there in Gita, they say that in the context of Bhishma. Bhishma Trona Pramukataha. I'm forgetting the exact verse. If somebody has it straight on, share it. So, the chief, the first son, is important to have him in your good books. See, these are very strategic, important points that are being made. Whom do you choose as a messenger or a representative? Who can represent you? Somebody who is knowledgeable, Vidwan, Dakshinaha, somebody who is capable, Daksha, who has the capability. And Pratibha Vanavan means he is shrewd. When somebody says something, he knows how to respond to it. That ability to listen to somebody. Smritiman, what was that term? Medhavi, the term that Simran had referred to earlier. So these are traits that when you are dealing with a person, when you're discussing something, you should be able to grasp what they are saying and respond appropriately in a timely manner. And that's what's being given importance here in this particular place. And yata yuktavadi uktavadi uktastata bhavyate. Ukta means as told, as instructed. Yata uktavadi means, so Govindaraja is giving a commentary for this. Say you go to a particular business meeting, or you are representing a king. You go to another king. When you are discussing, there are different problems that will be faced. It's not that whatever you are saying is going to be fully agreed upon. So you should be able to play around. You should see the mood of the place. You should be able to understand what is there. What's the verse? Anye cha bahava shuraha madarte tyakta jivitaha. That's the point. Madarte. So Duryodhana is saying, Madarte, for me, tyakta jivita, they are ready to lay down. But Vishwanath Chakravarti in his commentary says they have already laid down their lives. Even before the battle started, the fellows are dead. He makes this mention. So Yathoktavadi, when he goes and faces another king, or when he goes and faces the business, goes for a business meeting, he knows how to play around. He knows how he will be able to make some amends. He can change things. He can discuss things. He can misdepict, and adjust things. But he will not change the policy of the organization. Or if his boss has told him this is the price, he can't play around with those things, yes, without speaking to him. So Yathoktavadi, he follows, but he knows what to play with and what to be firm about. That's an important thing. Then this verse is just superb. There are three spies for some special positions that need to be put in place. So Rama lists that down for him. Do you know that 3 unknown spies for each of the 18 tirthas? Now, tirtha is an interesting word. Tirthas are royal positions in connection with kings. So they have specific places, they have a specific position there, and they have a specific duty to do. Just about the 3 unknown spies for each of the 18 tirthas. So these are 18 important royal positions. What are these royal positions? Let's understand these royal positions and what are the 18. So he says royal position 18 for other kingdoms. Now you have neighboring 2-3 countries. All those 18 people who are there, you should have some spies who are working around them. And you should be in touch with them. You should know what the spies are doing. For your own kingdom, you should have 15 spies, 5 spies for 15 different activities. And for each of those positions, there should be 3 spies that they're talking about. And then Govindaraja also mentions that avijanataha, avijnataha, the word is being used, means one spy should not know that the other is a spy. They should know each other. Then the tirthas, what are the tirthas? Then that is being explained here, the 18 tirthas, according to Arthashastra. So that is not there in the shloka, but all the commentators are talking about this. One is mantri, minister. Second is purohita, priest. Third is crown prince. Crown prince also needs to be taken care of. Yes. So you should have this happens in Pratapruddha's son goes ahead and orders the execution of, I think, Mukunda Datta, or Mukunda Datta's son, I'm sorry. maybe I'm missing. We dealt with this story before. But the king didn't know. It had to be brought to his attention. So it is important that the king also have people who watch on what the crown prince is doing. So that is, Yuvaraja is also included here. But these three, he says, it's not necessary that he shouldn't have spies for these three in his own kingdom. But in others' kingdom, it is needed that he has spies for all of them. So for his minister, for his own priest, for his own minister and his own son or his crown prince, he doesn't need to have spies. But he needs to know by giving attention to what is happening there. Then, Commander-in-Chief, Senapati, then Chief Security Director, Dawarika, Dwara, Dawarika. So, Chief Security Officer, Dawarika, Dwara, Vasudev, like that, Dawarika. Yes, Superintendent of the Inner Quarters. That is Antarvamshika. That is Antaranga, the residence. So there is somebody who's in charge of that, and that person should be kept an eye on. And Superintendent of the prisons, Karagara Adhikrita, who is the person who is in charge of prisons, because you are imprisoning people and wo side se sab log ko bahar bhej raha hai. You don't know what's happening. So that's important. That's in your own kingdom. But when it comes to other kingdoms, you should know how to release the enemy in the enemy's kingdom. Yes, enemy of the enemy in the enemy's kingdom. Then he says treasurer, Artha Sanchayakrit, one who is actually putting the treasury together. And then Director of External Communication, Karya Niyojaka, that is the external communication, specifically for royal decrees. What will happen is the king will say, make this announcement, go there. So he will go make the announcement, see that things get moving there. Then the magistrate, Prad Vivaka, one, and then Govindraj is also explaining that the magistrate is the person who actually inquires the first case first. And then there's a judge, that's a separate person, but he inquires. And how is he supposed to inquire? The word that is used is Priyam Purvam, with a lot of affection. It's not that if a case comes, you're on the guy's case, you bloody rascal, why did you do this? Not that kind of inquiry. So it is pleasantly interrogates and counter-interrogates during legal disputes. Vivade Prachati Prashnam. How Priyam Priya Purvam Prag Vadati. First he is supposed to do that. Then the Quartermaster General, who is that Sena Nayaka, he provides for the army with salaries and all of that stuff, yes. So he's the guy who pays them salaries and manages that. Then there is a city superintendent. What's he supposed to do? He's supposed to guard the city. He's supposed to guard the city and then cleanse the city. So he's taking care of, apart from guarding the city and the city doors, because you open the city, the king is at risk straight away. Contractual payment officer, Karmantika, that's the name of the person. Can you imagine what kind of organization and what Ramayana, what kind of detail Ramayana has got from Arthashastra? And how our scriptures have had, it's not that, simply a small, just put one position or somebody wrote some kahani in Ramayana and walked off. This is all in full detail that is available here. So he is saying exactly, he is quoting 18. Usme elaborate bhi nahi karta hai, because he is supposed to know. Yes, Bharata definitely knows what these 18 are, but therefore he is just saying that in short. So contractual payment, who is making payroll for the contractuals, that's another person. Court superintendent, Sabha, who is taking care. He allows people in, he disallows people to come in. He knows where, who should be seated. King is here, Mantri here, Bhaiya, tu niche bed. You're in the next category. Who sits and what levels, if there is silence to be maintained in the court. Yes? Protection when things are in the court. All of this coming under his Sabya. He takes care of it. Then is the judge. He investigates, bases a litigation and settles dispute according to Dharma Shastra. So he is supposed to be Shastragya. He knows what is Dharma Shastra. He goes according to that. Then Justice Enforcement Director, Dharmadhyaksha is judge. Then Justice Enforcement. Now judge has given a judgment. Iska haath kato, isko ye karo. So who is that? Dandapala is the person. He is the enforcement of whatever is the judgment that has been given. Then Security Director for the forts or inaccessible areas. Durgapala. Durga is Duhu. Durga Mata represents the material world. Why is she standing with Trishula? Because you can never go across her. You cannot enter. Durgam, that which is difficult to enter. So she is actually guarding the material world. Yes? From that perspective. So Durga Pala means all the inaccessible area. There are mountains, there are rivers, there are water bodies. Udhar koi jata nahi hai, but those places also need to be taken care of because enemies can actually get into that space and put us into trouble. And then the Border Security Director, Rashtrantapala. Rashtra, kingdom, Anta, end, or the borders, Pala, one who takes care of that. Very beautiful description, great detail that is there. So as I mentioned, the prince, mantri and the priest in one's own kingdom, the king is directly interacting with them, therefore he knows their pulse. But for the rest, you should have, even in your own kingdom, you should have what's your army commander doing, what is your border security force doing. You should get to know all of this. Apart from direct reports coming from them, your own reports have to come for that. That's an important point. Now we come to a zone where we are talking about how to manage politics, managing dissent, how to manage competitors. So competitor management, managing dissent, that's the next section we're going to. This is verse 38 that we are talking about. In some versions, it is verse 37. I hope you don't disregard exiled enemies. Somebody got exiled, but a person comes back later. Says, sorry, please accept me in the kingdom. Say, don't underestimate that person. Don't disregard him. If he comes back, there could be 2-3 things that will happen. Govindaraja is also giving that in his commentary. He says, if he comes back, maybe he's got some external support because of which he has come back, or an external purpose for which he has come back. Or he is getting some support from within. So when somebody exiled comes back, deal with him with respect, see to it that there are eyes on that person so that you know what is happening. Then, managing argumentative people and non-conformist people. All of this, how many of you think these are all points directly relevant to managing people and managing an organization? Or are these extraneous? Can I have a response? Just
highly relevant, very relevant.
Very relevant, very relevant. So can you just type relevant? Young folks who love to type relevant, send it back to me. Yes?
Prabhu, this is more from a country perspective, not a organization perspective or a company perspective, right?
So, in an organization perspective, many of these aspects are relevant to you. From a country perspective also, but in an organization also, you can have differentiated thoughts. But you cannot have somebody who, that point is coming up. You'll get to hear on this particular aspect. Rather, can you clarify your comment, Kumarji?
See, I'm saying the roles which have been given, justice, the army, the defense, like it's not talking about the Minister of Agriculture or Minister of, so it's not like marketing, sales, or so I'm just trying to relate that from a Arthashastra or a country perspective is giving advice. How do we apply that from a company organization perspective, which is into buying and selling stuff?
This is what, from Narendra Modi down to every person who is in rule should actually be able to read and understand. It is country perspective. I agree. That those 18 positions don't matter, but from Pareto to procrastination to, managing people, what is the kind of qualities you look at people, all of this is what I'm talking about relevance. Of course, those 18 do not fit into this thing. That's a fact. Now, managing argumentative and non-conformist people. So, there is a title that is given for them. Loka Yatikan is a title that is given. So, within the Brahmana community itself, there are some people who are just argumentative. They are logical. So in an organization, when there is argumentation, we don't want to expunge argumentation immediately, or rather differentiated views. Argumentation is not to be encouraged. But when a different view is being expressed, that should never be expunged. The opportunity to actually express that view and dabble with it and consider why it is right, why it is not right is important. That the curiosity should be there, the freedom to be able to express those should also be there. But he says, Lokayati kan brahmanan na sevase panditamanini. I hope you are not getting entrapped with people who look like big panditas. Pandita manini. You think they are panditas, but they are brahmanas who are lokayatan. What are these people doing? They are actually immature people, but they are scholars in many ways. That is, they are logicians. So there is a beautiful description that is being given. Baladev Vidyabhushan is saying here that there is Pratyaksha Anuman, in Praman. Pratyaksha and then Anuman, and what is the third?
Shabda.
Yeah, that's why I was holding my ear to it. So Shabda is hearing, yes, what you hear from. So these are three pramanas. For some people, the Acharyas give this classification. So some people think that only what is Pratyaksha, that's the only thing they will accept. What I am able to see, or what I am able to logically, by Anuman, I am able to decipher, but I will not accept Shabda. I will not accept an authority. I will not accept Veda as an authority. I want to question everything. I want to go about it. Very nice. It's good to have somebody like that, but I wouldn't have him on a day-to-day basis. It's good to have a debate with somebody every Friday or every once in a month, to have a discussion or a debate. But if that person comes into an organization, it can be a very, very difficult thing. So they say, due to their difficulty in understanding, what is the problem with these people? Lokayatikan, who just base themselves on logic only and are not able to corroborate it with the bigger Vedic view. See, what you need to understand, the entire kingdom or the entire Vedic system has been put together basis the bigger view of dharma, which is the Vedic view. Now, if somebody keeps debating and arguing that constantly, how do you deal with that person? We are going to see a couple of verses on that. Let's see what it is. Due to their difficulty to understand Vedic teachings, they lose faith in the dharmic activities. So what happens is they are considered experts, but they start to reject the saintly. And actually, these people are people who will fall to hell. They are immature people endowed with ignorance, and actually they are an obstacle to Tattva Darshana, Tattva Jnana, or actually to be able to see the Lord. So they actually become an hindrance. But how do you deal with these people? So then the next point that is being made here, the Dharma Sutras and the cream, despite being present, yes, still these people are there. That is the problem. When there are many aspects of scripture which so beautifully describe what to do, how to do, still they want to just take an antagonistic stance. Just like we have a very antagonistic stance right now in Tamil Nadu, in various ways. Anything dharma, you have to rubbish it in some way or the other. That's stupid. If there are rational things that you want to discuss and debate, that's great to have. And what is actually wrong can be done away with. But anything and everything that comes from a spiritual base, or like banning Sanskrit, for instance, it is just totally unintelligent. So Dharma Shastras, so Shastra being, despite the continued presence of first-class Vedic scriptures teaching Dharma, the unintelligent take shelter of dry logical conceptions and speak useless doctrines. Now, what is the problem with logic? So, what is wrong with logic? Logic should be encouraged. भैया तुम्हारा logic different है, मेरा logic different है. तीसरा आएगा उसका. That is why what is that? When they define munis, matam vibhinnam. What is that? There is a Sanskrit quote that Srila Prabhupada says that muni means you have to show that you have a new view. Now, I'm a thinker. I have to be thinking different. You say like this, then I will say A plus 1. You say A, I say A plus 1. You say A plus 2. Each fellow will keep saying a different thing. This kind of, just wrangling for the sake of intellectual superiority, or you're just saying your tarka and your vada, this is not going to help. So what happens is they say, how do they encourage this? No one other than who logically scrutinizes the instruction of Dharma. So they are saying, fine, we are ready to discuss and understand logic, but take the time to logically scrutinize what is Dharma and what is given in the Vedic scriptures, given by our sages. And without contradicting the Vedic Dharma, you are able to apply your logic and you are able to fall within this thing, because the whole Varnashrama Dharma, the whole system has been designed in that manner. And when somebody comes who actually breaks the this thing and comes up with why, later you will see one of the who's that? J, starting with J, who speaks to Rama, and Rama says, anybody who knows what's coming? He's one of the rishis who's standing there right in front of Rama as he's asking all these questions, and he's asking, behaving like a loka. Okay. Now, there's a quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the quote says, "My dear Lord, to understand those things beyond the direct experience, such as spiritual liberation or attainment of heaven and similar material enjoyments, and in general to understand the means and ends of all things, that is, to understand things that are higher, it is imperative that the forefathers, the demigods, and the human beings consult the Vedic literature, for these literatures being your own laws." Here Rama is speaking. So, dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. What is dharma? Dharma is that which is enunciated by the Lord. So, here this verse, Uddhava is speaking to Krishna, and he says, these are your laws, and therefore anything that is done in consultation with those laws is acceptable. Anything that's totally against it or disturbing people's understanding of the same should not be encouraged or accepted. So he's saying, he's asking Bharata, are you being careful about people like this? Are you able to recognize them? Are you able to be careful about that? So then the next point is being made in the commentary. Govindaraja is explaining that it's a very beautiful point. Please listen carefully. It's also a heavy point. This whole class it's not entertainment at all today. These are very heavy points to understand. Satvat sanjayate jnanam. When will you get knowledge? When you are in the mode of goodness, only then you will get knowledge. Oh, is that? Why is that so? Because when you are in the mode of passion and when you are in the mode of ignorance, you become bewildered by the fact that you want to attain sense enjoyment. You want something immediately. You don't want it to be delayed. So when you are in that mood, sattva, rajas and tamas mood, at that time you are not in a position to sit back, think, and actually assimilate something properly. Therefore, a person who is in rajas and tamas, the Vedic scriptures don't reveal themselves to him. The person in rajas and tamas has to slowly gravitate upward and come to sthitam sattve prasidati, as Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the 4 verses there tell us that he has to come and tada rajas tamo bhavo kama lobhadeschaye chetaye tehi anaviddam sthitam sattve prasidati, from the Bhagavatam, that rajas tama, from that we have to leave. We have to elevate ourselves and come to Sthitam Sattve Prasidati. So many of these people who are intellectual argumentators can be in the Rajas and Tamas zone, and therefore the Vedas don't reveal themselves, nor do they have the intellectual or perceptible capability to assimilate that. And therefore the Vedas, because they are not revealed to them, for such people the Vedic scriptures intentionally do not reveal their inner purpose, but prepare them gradually for upliftment. So Jiva Goswami is mentioning that in his Tattva Sandarbha. It's quoted here. Fine. Now we are moving to a different zone again. These are general inquiries about Ayodhya. So first question is, he's asking about the well-being of the people. Oh dear child, do you protect Ayodhya? What is the meaning of the word Ayodhya? Can somebody remind me? Meaning of the word Ayodhya. Yudhya.
The one that cannot be won over.
Yeah. No battle is viable with that place. That is Ayodhya. So he's saying, is Ayodhya true to its name? Yes. Are you keeping it safe? And then he says, our predecessors in the past have taken care of it. Its great gates are sturdy. And I mentioned this again and again. Ayodhya, one of the greatest strengths of Ayodhya is elephants. And the horses and its chariots filled with thousands of honorable great people, self-controlled, greatly enthusiastic Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras, who are all performing all of their duties as per dharma. They are fulfilling their duties very beautifully. So, and he says the actual Ayodhya is so filled with different places which are in different shapes. So they are the triangles and the rectangles. They are all packed with learned people. In a prosperous city with happy inhabitants. Is that what Ayodhya is still with you? Then he's talking about stability and economic well-being. So these are different aspects. This is not management principle. We'll be pitching back into that a little later. But this is management principle for a nation. Stability and economic well-being. So next question he's asking is, are people in Ayodhya happy? Yes. Is Ayodhya still filled with hundreds of plots which have been allocated specifically for performing sacrifices? So there is separate segments in Ayodhya which have been allocated for sacrifices. Then he's saying, is it filled with people who are well settled, established there? Now, when will people be well settled and established in a place? Now, there are many people who are thinking the metros are no more livable. You got to run away from metros because you go to Bangalore, I think, Chennai, all these places, you've gone 5,000-6,000 feet below the soil, below the ground for water, which also means the trees, however big their roots, will not be able to go this 5. You are putting a borewell and you are doing all this magic, stupid things by which we are actually sucking the water out. But the trees will not be able to reach that deep. And the rains are failing, which means the trees become rain dependent. So that point is coming up very beautifully here. Please listen. Is it graced with temples, places supplying drinking water by the roadside? So there is drinking water supply that's available by the roadside and large water bodies to increase the production of grains and so on. How many of us have seen water pots being left in the summer season for people to drink water outside houses and in the streets? Any of you have seen it? Where have you seen it? There are many places here where you see people put a cooler outside a building. Mamta Mate is saying she's seen something. None of you others have seen a water pot that's put out. Even now, my mother does this. I think she's still on the forum. So in the peak summer, sometimes when my father and mother, when they were there, sometimes it's water and sometimes it's chas, more, which is a very thin lassi, neer more, which will be put out there. And through the summer months, every day, that will be out there. The people will come, take this thing, drink, and keep going. Yes, Ashish is mentioning there are many places where water coolers people have put outside. That's a great way to help. And you'll see people who will come with a bottle, take their water and go. So these arrangements he is asking, is that being maintained in Ayodhya? Are large bodies of water available there to increase the production of grains and so on? Yes. So large bodies of water, they have Sarayu nearby, but despite that, they want to hold large bodies of water so that you will store water and hold them. Is it bordered by lands that have been well plowed? Look at that. Now, I've heard many people, even within our Varnashrama community, say that only rain-fed agriculture we should do. Rest of the year, it is not meant. Land should be left empty, at least for some season. That's not how Rama thinks about it. There's something wrong with our understanding here. Is it bordered by land that have been well plowed? Is the agricultural land there independent of rain? This is the question Rama is asking. Yes. So the agricultural land should be independent of whether it rains or not. You should have water capability there. So whether it is from Sarayu or whether it is from your own water bodies that you have stored. There is one gentleman, one IAS officer who did a serious study in many places in South India. And he saw that in every town, you had hundreds of in Tamil Nadu they say Kuttai, Kulam and all these different words. Talab, ye wo, both अनेक तरह के एक size का एक नाम होता है. There are different names for that in different places. So they used to have so many water bodies, and the water bodies would be dug up every few years. There will be families who were dedicated to that. Just like there will be a temple talab, a main one that is there. So conserving water has been a core this thing. When I went to the farm, we were studying Kautilya Arthashastra and Krishi, Parashara Krishi Sukta. In Parashara Krishi Sukta, there's a very, very interesting model of how to harvest water. You know, I'm sorry, it's a bit of an extraneous topic, but we'll come straight back in here. If you want, if a hill is sloped like this, you want to see, if you allow the water to flow, it will take all of your topsoil along with it. Flow, gone. Topsoil, gone. You cultivate topsoil gone. So what will you do? You will see to it when the slope is like this, you will dig a channel like this, so that the water will get in there, the topsoil will get locked into that little channel that you're building, and the water will go sideward, slowly seeping through your land as much as possible. So when we saw Parashara Krishi Sukta, we are seeing that how you should build these, they say, should be in the shape of a bow. Are you able to imagine that? A bow is coming like this, the handle, central handle, and then the side parts go out like this. So this is the shape that is being prescribed. So you build these, you put these on the slope. So when the water is coming, that will hold water. Then the next bow, then the next bow. Our people have done such wonderful work. We have lost and destroyed the little that they left. We've completely lost that knowledge. So are the agricultural lands independent of rain? Is it enriched with cows, goats and other animals? Is it adorned with mines of jewels and gold and so on? Are these things still everything good there? Is it pleasant with beautiful gardens and so on? Are its men and women very joyful? Is it beautified by social festivals? I was seeing the other day something I was watching on YouTube or something, and I saw in Kerala the kind of festivities that they have. They have a boat festival, then they have this festival, that festival. There are endless festivals. This was our traditional culture, that we all had festivals that we could come and celebrate together. Today, nobody understands any festival. Diwali, these people celebrate. South India, we don't celebrate. You know, we have one Pongal and half the thing, everything else is forgotten. What do you do on these celebration days? You know nothing. Sab daru party ho gaya aaj, unfortunately. The customs and the festivities and why we celebrate, everything is gone. That social fiber. So if you actually have national celebration festival, Onam is such a big festival, for instance. Or even now you go to South, you will see Pongal is a big thing. So that day, there is a natural mood of festivities and celebration and happiness. It's not like that. It's, you know, it becomes a very different day. Some people may still have to continue doing what they're doing. But these festivals make people, men and women, joyful. That's very, very important. So he's addressing, are these nice festivals being celebrated? He's asking. Have all kinds of dangers, such as those due to theft, have been warded off. And he's also saying it's not warded off only in the city, but even in the outskirts. People should not be afraid of theft. Is it devoid of mutual violence? Are any wild beasts, tigers or others attacking? As a king, do you go kill those animals? Do you hunt them so that they don't attack the country? Then he's saying, is it deserted? Is Ayodhya deserted? Deserted? Yes, deserted by sinful people. All those rascals, do they run away? Did they run away from Ayodhya? So, then Govindaraja is saying, what is well established? Are people well established? Means people will be well established when they are able to see that the land is capable of producing. The dhana that, you see the whole Vedic system, what worked is Krishi Goraksha Vanijyam. That's where the money comes from. Our lands, you go to Europe, you go to many of these other places, your land does not even produce for 6 months in a year, because the rest of it is so cold, you can't produce anything. And whatever you make at that time, that's why these people are experts at preserving. Brine, salt water preservation, sugar water preservation, making jams, making tomato puree, this, that. Why is this? Hamara kya tomato puree kya kuch zarurat nahi hai. We don't need any of those things. Because you go out, you get your tomato. Through the year you can get. Nothing big about it. There are varieties of cherry tomatoes which grow right through the year. Look at banana. Look at coconut. Look at papaya. Is there any season for these things? You just put those trees out there, they are giving you through the year. Our dhana was our land. Our dhana was our agriculture. And that dhana, the Vaishyas would collect and then they would give it to the kings. And the kings would put that dhana together, see to it that the welfare of people are taken care of. But all of that dhana finally, ultimately ended up in connection with the Lord. And that's why it's not one temple. Our temples have been marauded and looted millions of times. It was the pastime for many of these people in the zones from where we got our attackers. India was the place that everybody said, Bhaiya, udhar jayega, haath kuch na kuch lagega, mandir bahut hai, jao. This is the buzzword that went around. They came, and after that, then the British came. They took everything that they can take. And still, there are so many opulent temples that are there. We need to understand that our great glory is first our land. And then the central spiritual culture. These two things are our actual glory. So, that Rama is talking about here, and he is saying, are people therefore happy that there is good governance, there is good rains, there is good health, there is good soil? Why would they want to leave the country? Are they settled happily? Is one question that he asks. And then he says, then he's talking about whether even the agricultural lands in the border, is everything being tilled, everything being utilized properly? People should not be sleeping. The oxen should be working. The farmer should be working. That is wealth. That needs to be going on. Is that happening? And then he says, are there no calamities that people are facing in the country? Now, there's a list of calamities. There are 6 occasional calamities that can be considered. Ativrishti, Anavrishti. Too much rain, no rain at all. 2 problems. Then, a swarm of rats, mushikaha, where rats come. Then locusts, shalabaha. Shalabasana is a asana. Yes? You are lying down with your hands and then your legs alone are going up. That's shalabasana. That's a locust. Yes? So, locusts, birds, and attacks from other kings. I hope all of these calamities are warded off there. Then, Adeva Matrikaha. Rama is saying, I hope our people are not dependent on the Devas. Oh, what? Adeva Matrikaha means, that is, they are not always waiting for Indra to shower rain. That they are able to manage exclusively. They are not only managing based on their dependence on the Devas, but their agricultural land is capable of producing even without that. I have even looked at some records of some of the first visitors to India, and how gloriously they talk about what was the status of Indian agriculture. If India had wealth coming from its agriculture. Today it's all been stripped. A completely difficult perspective to agriculture, not working in unison with nature, and that's a very big problem. Next, Kachitte Daitaha Sarve Krishi Goraksha Jivinaha. Very beautiful point. Kachitte Daitaha Sarve are the people who are there. They are subsisting happily. Krishi Goraksha Jivinaha. Are they happily living basis of Krishi Goraksha? And then he is saying, Vartayaha samshritaha tata loko hi sukam edate loko hi sukam edate. So he's saying, in this loka, in this world, if there is going to be sukam, it is only going to come from these. What is this? Krishi, Gauraksha Jivinaha, Vartayam. This Vartayam means trade. So, Krishi, Gauraksha, Vanijya, these three things are the ones that are going to give us economic well-being, are going to give us our happiness. My dear child, the Vaishyas who subsist on agriculture, and I trust that all those men who live on agriculture, cattle rearing, are favorable to you. And listen to this last. The world's prosperity, my dear brother, grows on the profession of cattle rearing. The importance of Pashu is also coming up in this particular place. So Rama is making this thing. Then the next point is about prohibition. It's an interesting point. Gupti pariharehi kritam. Gupti hi pariharehi kritam. Parihara is to take away, Gupti is to protect. So the thing, Raja's duty is to see that some things are taken away, the wrong things are taken away, and the right things are given to people. Rakshya hi Raja dharmena sarve. What is the dharma of a Raja? Rakshya hi sarve. He is supposed to protect everybody. So are all our people being protected properly? Are you able to take away the right things? Like in Tamil Nadu, we call it Tasmac. The agriculture, the greatest boon to men, alcohol shop. Even in COVID, rascals are queuing up there. In Tasmac, no face mask rules, no rules apply. I think I made one joke the last time. I saw one picture of normalcy in Pondicherry has arrived. Normalcy in Pondicherry has arrived means there are 3-4 fellows lying on the street. One fellow is lying on the staircase, head in the bottom of the stair, leg on top of the stair, all fully drunk, down and out. So now Pondicherry has come to normalcy after lockdown. This is the kind of thing, these things should be taken away or controlled in such a manner that they don't destroy families the way they are doing currently. So what needs to be taken away and what needs to be kept? Now, something very similar the Lord does. Can you relate to that? To give and take away. Not the same, similar.
Yada yada hi dharmasya Prabhu. Paritranaya sadhunam.
Okay, you can say that. You can say that. But I'm looking for what does the Lord give? He gives an assurance to his devotees.
Ananya Chintayanto Mam Yejana
Chintayanto
Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam.
That's the word I want. Yogakshemam Vahamyam. That yoga is to bring together what you don't have. And Shema is to preserve what you have. So give you what you don't have and preserve what you have. This is Lord's kindness. But the king cannot behave like that. King is supposed to be considered equivalent to 1/4 of Indra. Indra is one minuscule of the Supreme Personality. But the trait, the king is the representative of the Lord in the Bhuloka. Yes? So he is actually also doing this function of trying to see to it that his praja is maintained very happily. He plays the role on behalf of the Lord there. So instead of Yogakshema, here he is giving things and he is also taking unnecessary things away from his people. So these both are considered the duties of a king. Then the next point comes. This is the very controversial point. All of you are going to have great difficulty in understanding. Dealing with wives. So the point that is being made is, do you favorably deal with your wives? Are they all well protected by you? Till this place we don't have any contradiction. We are all happy. I hope you don't place too much faith in their words. Not my words, Rama's words. Hare Krishna. Yes? To say that, don't consider all their words to be true. because they can be very sentimental people. Sometimes, you know, things can move here or there. Then the next, this Govindaraja is writing this in the commentary. And then, I hope you don't divulge big secrets to them. And that's also a very important thing. Many times, may not be in a position to keep secrets. And also from another perspective, if you see, say Dasharatha's case, for instance, multiple queens. So, you know, the rule for secrets. If it goes to 2 years, it is very, very firm. If it goes to 4 years, still stands a good chance. If it goes beyond that, it doesn't happen, as Hemrup Prabhu mentioned. It doesn't help. So now, how is this king going to manage with his multiple wives? Then all wives will need equality. How do we manage? Therefore, the point is, something which are major secrets, specifically king, you know, your family secrets is a different thing. How you manage is your business. But as a king, and he's only talking at this point about Ayodhya. So, I trust you keep the women pacified, well protected, and you believe in them in certain things, and not all, and do not divulge secrets to them. Yes. Next comes a principle on asset management. Is the elephant habitat protected? Do you have, that's the asset for a king. And Ayodhya had its name because of the elephants. Do you have female elephants who will be able to attract male elephants in, and then you can pick them up and train them? I hope you are not content with procuring with enough elephants, that you are always looking for more elephants to grow and increase your presence there. For 2 reasons, I may have to close with this. One is my battery is almost done. It could be any minute. So the last point, with this I'll close for today. And then there are a few more that I've prepared, but we'll pick this up in the next class. Interaction with press and citizens. How do you interact with press and citizens? Kachit darshyase nityam. Do you give audience to your people nityam? Uttayo taya manushyanam vibhushitam. As soon as you wake up in the morning, first thing, do you dress yourself nicely, vibhushitam, and go there and give darshan to the people? I remember we used to live in one place in Chennai, and close by, I think there was one film star called Sohan Babu or something like that. Old time Telugu film star. Telugus are very, you know, they have a lot of film stars as their idol and god. So a lot of people, when they come from Tirupati, because Tirupati is close to Chennai, they'll also come to Chennai, they'll stop in front of the houses of some of these people, and this great film star will come out with his dark glasses and will wig in his head, and he will shake his hand like this, and everybody will...
Not Soban Babu, N.T. Ramarao.
No, N.T. Ramarao was...
Because he acted in films.
Soban Babu was in Mehta Nagar.
Mehta Nagar, it's okay. N.T. Ramarao, because he acted in Krishna as Krishna.
Yeah. So
buses will come.
So that is stupidity, but this a king has to do. And Govindaraja is also saying, if you don't meet them regularly, or you're not in a position to wake up early in the morning and come out, it means the king is not in health. And therefore people need to see the king. So like this section, I'm not able to move. What is the point in rushing through this without actually understanding this in depth? So please excuse me, we're going slow, but I have to wrap up today.